Hello BookTube, I'm Jonathan and welcome to Words in Time. Now in today's video we're going to be talking about the third book in the Expanse series, ABADDON'S Gate. Now quickly get down into the comments and let me know how you pronounce it. ABADDON'S Gate, ABADDON'S Gate. That was my initial inclination, but I did some Googling and I was told Abaddon like Aladdin, but I'm perfectly happy to be corrected in the comments. So what is the premise of ABADDON'S Gate? Well, without giving too much away from the first two books, the proto-molecule has built a ring outside the orbit of Uranus, and it appears to be some kind of gate or wormhole, and no one knows exactly what it is, what its purpose is, where it leads to, but the forces of Mars, Earth, and the OPA are all vying for control of it and what goes in and out of it. So I want to talk a bit about the structure and characters in the third book because we get some new POVs. The series keeps on introducing new characters to us, which you may or may not like. I think it's pretty dependent on how much you like those characters. There were a couple of characters that I really liked from book 2 that were not back, although I have a feeling we may see them later in the series. And there was one character that I really liked from book 1 that made a return. So there's a few trade-offs there. So, of course, one of the POVs that we follow is Holden and the crew of the Rocinante. So, Holden, things seems to be going pretty well for him, but as always, he manages to find himself at the center of a galactic conflict. And I didn't totally click with Holden's character arc in book 2, but in this book it felt a little bit more organic to me. I still didn't necessarily agree with everything he said or did, but it did always feel authentically Holden, and I like some of the way the relationships formed with him and the crew. Now, one of the new characters we get is called Bull, and Bull is the second in command on a Belter ship, but he is an Earther. And even though he seems rather competent, he seems like a pretty talented, qualified person for the role, because he's an Earther, that makes him a bit of an outsider and leads to a lot of tension with his captain. Another new character is Melba. Now, I can't say too much about Melba, but Melba's a bit of a mysterious character, and for reasons that are revealed in the book, she has a bit of a vendetta against Holden, but, you know, who doesn't? And lastly, we follow Anna. Anna is a pastor who is part of an advisory group on a exploratory trip to the ring, and she's kind of mainly focused with religion, but she kind of gets pulled into these different aspects of politics and the military, so she kind of has an interesting perspective. So overall, I like these new characters. I thought they were very well realized. I enjoyed them just as much as the original crew, and yeah, I think they added a lot to the depth and adding some new perspective to the story. Now, I wanted to talk a bit about the antagonists in book 3, because in the first two books, the antagonists to me felt a little bit like faceless, distant, kind of generic bad guys. Whereas in this book, they're a bit more present. We at least get to see from them, hear from them, learn a bit more about them. And while I wouldn't necessarily say that was the strongest aspect of this book, I think what we did get, for me at least, was better than kind of close to nothing that we got in the first two books from our villains. So I want to talk a bit about the writing in this book, because if you watch my reviews for book 1 and 2, a minor issue was sometimes the writing strayed a little bit into corny territory for me. But in book 3, I felt like there was a noticeable improvement in the writing, particularly in the description and the prose. I thought it was really vivid and even poetic at times, so I really enjoyed that. But the dialogue did still stray into corny territory once again. I'll give you an example. There is a fight scene where two people are fighting on a ship, and mid-fight while punching each other, one of the characters says something like, "I will not let you hurt my ship." Now, I don't know about you guys, I don't get in a lot of fights. I would imagine if I was fighting to the death, I would probably not be thinking that much at all. I'd probably be fighting on instinct. But if I was thinking, I'd probably be thinking about how not to get punched in the face. I probably wouldn't be thinking about what are the broader implications of me getting punched in the face, and then verbalizing that to my attacker. So it's a pretty minor note. It's not game breaking or anything. It just, it was a little bit of an eye roll for me, but that might not bother you as much. So speaking of action, I felt like I love the action in book 1. The action in book 2, for some reason, felt like it lacked a bit of stakes, lacked a bit of tension, all the kind of tense scenarios. I kind of just had this feeling like, well, I'm sure they'll get out of it. But I felt like some of that intensity came back in book 3, and there was especially some really cool descriptions of some fight scenes, some battle scenes in low gravity. I think those played out really, really well. So lastly, something I wanted to touch on in ABADDON'S Gate was the concepts. So I would say I really enjoyed how it broadened the scope of the ideas and the concepts, because this series generally is pretty accessible, and it still is, but I think it took some ambitious swings. I thought there was a couple of scenes, 1 or 2 scenes that got pretty out there. It got a little bit weird in this book, and I'm totally here for that, because the series has always done a good job of describing, exploring the nature of physics, how it'd actually be like to live on a spaceship. It's always stayed pretty true to that. But in this book, we get just a little bit of playing with those physics, playing with the nature of space and time, and I'm really interested to see more of that in the series to come. So, overall, I think ABADDON'S Gate was a lot of fun. As always, really fast-paced. There was a few corny moments, but nothing game-breaking, and I think it made some pretty big decisions that I think is going to set up the series well going forward. I'm definitely interested to see where the series goes. So I'm going to give ABADDON'S Gate an 8 out of 10. I definitely enjoyed it. I think it was back on track. The first book, Leviathan Wakes, is still my favorite, but I enjoyed this a little bit more than book 2, and I've already gone ahead and bought book 4. So there you go, guys. Those are my thoughts on this one. If you haven't read it yet, let me know if you are interested in picking up or continuing the Expanse series, and if you have, where does it rank? Where do you place ABADDON'S Gate in the Expanse series? So, as always, guys, I really appreciate you watching. If you did enjoy the video, like and subscribe for more sci-fi content coming soon.